Let's show how super important and what parts make up an exit strategy for a service provider. By acting out how a company makes big decisions, we want to make complicated ideas easy to understand and remember for people in different jobs. The main goal is to show that planning ahead doesn't just lower risks, but also makes the business stronger and gives it more control. Maria, service manager. She's the main character. She plans ahead, thinks smart, and is the one who called the meeting. David, director of the legal department. He's experienced, organized, and practical. He focuses on protecting contracts and lowering legal risks. Sophia, CISO. She's technical, exact, and careful. Her main focus is keeping data and access super secure. Javier, CIO. He has a big picture view and looks at the whole system. He focuses on the equipment, tech stuff, and making sure systems keep running. Carlos, head of business continuity. He's careful and a planner. His job is to always check how any change will affect how things run. ANA, purchasing manager. She's a smart negotiator and pays attention to details. Her job is to make sure what the business needs matches the supplier's prices and contract terms.
Good morning. I've brought you all together to figure out our exit strategy for the new critical service provider, even before we start.
That sounds a bit backward, Maria. We haven't even picked a partner yet, and we're already planning the breakup.
Exactly, Javier. In firefighter training, they teach you a golden rule. Before you go into a burning building, find your way out. For us, a critical service failing is that fire. It could kill the business.
Maria is absolutely right. From a responsibility point of view, it's the only smart move. In other areas, it's called a prenuptial agreement. If people think it's smart to plan for a possible personal split before getting married, why wouldn't we do it for a service agreement that's super important for us to survive? We need to set the terms for ending it before we sign anything.
Exactly. The when is now. This process needs to be part of things from the very start, following 5 key steps. A first draft while we're still figuring out what the service is. Putting exit requirements into our requests for proposals, RFPs. Reviewing and agreeing with the possible provider, putting those requirements into the contract's rules. And finally, checking and approving the final strategy once we've picked the provider. This is the time. Now, let's talk about who's in charge. Now that we've figured out when, let's move on to who. As service manager, the final responsibility is mine, but success depends on each of your skills. Sophia, from security. What are your absolute must-haves? Zero trust. I need a super strict plan for safely sending information, taking away all their logins, and deleting their encryption keys and connections to our network. No exceptions.
And from the tech side, my plan is to get our stuff back. Servers, laptops, any of our hardware at their place needs to come back. And their equipment needs to leave our data centers with certified proof it's wiped clean.
And Javier, your hardware recovery plan needs to be perfectly in sync with mine. A server that's been physically returned but still has an active connection on the network is a huge security hole.
And while you two are moving things around, I have to make sure the service doesn't stop. We need the notice periods we agree on to be long enough so that the change doesn't mess up our business continuity plans.
And each of these requirements, taking away access, certified data wiping, longer notice periods, will affect the talks and the cost. I need all of this clear to fight for it at the table.
And Anna, every requirement you negotiate needs to be locked down in the contract. A verbal agreement about wiping data is worth nothing. We need specific rules that we can enforce for everything Sophia and Javier mentioned, with clear penalties. Protecting our company's ideas and our rights after the contract ends are non-negotiable.
Excellent. This is the internal team. But let's not forget the other 2 super important players. First, the provider themselves. We need to get them involved so they understand what they're responsible for. And second, we need to check if there's any big fourth-party company involved in the service. Now that we know who we are and why we're here, let's figure out exactly what our plan needs to have. Sun Tzu taught us, know yourself and your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. I want to be clear. The provider is our partner, not the enemy. The enemy is the mess of moving things over. The enemy is the risk of the service stopping. That's what we're here to beat. We start with service analysis and strategic approach. What's plan B? Another provider? Do we do it ourselves? Or is there no other choice and we just have to take the risk?
That brings us to impact and assets. We need to list everything that needs to be moved. Physical stuff, data, apps, licenses, and don't forget the know-how they gain. And of course, the risks. The operational one is the most obvious, but
there's another one. A less common but super important risk, causing the provider to go out of business if we're their main client.
Wait, make them go bankrupt. If we're their biggest contract and we leave, the bad press for us could be worse than the operational risk. The media would make us look like a bully. We need a specific plan for that.
We will have one. Now the action plans. We need two. The migration plan takes us from point A to B. It's how we swap one service for another, how we get the new service up and running, how we move data, and get everything ready to start working. But the transition plan makes sure things don't get messy here. It's how we keep working while we make the change. Without it, we won't know how to switch from one service to another. Do we slowly move operations from one service to another? Do we do a big bang switch, turning off the old service one day and turning on the new one? Is everyone who needs to be involved on the same page for our customers? Do we avoid gaps between the two services that could lead to losing information? We need to have this clear from the start. Which brings me to costs. We have to guess everything. Equipment, project costs, possible fines for ending early, and the money we miss out on if the process takes too long.
And my job is to make sure all of that is written into the contract clauses. The provider's duty to keep the service going during the change. Keeping secrets. Everything needs to be in writing.
Here it is, a full document that covers everything from the first look to the legal rules. And of course, it will need official approval from all our departments.
This is perfect for new services, Maria. But what about the critical services we've had for years without a formal exit strategy?
It's a tough one. For those services, we're trying to write the prenuptial agreement after the wedding. It's not impossible, but it's tricky and could be expensive. The process is looking back. First, we make a list of risks not covered by current contracts. Then, we have three choices: negotiate an add-on, adjust our internal plans to lessen the impact, or accept the risk and guess how much a forced exit would cost us. And remember, this doesn't end when the service is up and running. An exit strategy isn't a static paper you put in a drawer. It's a living plan. It needs to be checked and tested regularly. This plan doesn't predict the future. It makes sure we can act when the future arrives. It's not about planning an end. It's about making sure we keep going. Today, we've taken back control.